I'm delighted to introduce AVID Australia's speaker for 2022, a man who has been an inspirational role model and a mentor to me and to many others. John Carter is one of the AVID Australia's longest-serving staff developers, and in his 32nd years of teaching the Western Melbourne, in the western suburb of Melbourne. He first encountered AVID in 2012 at Wyndham Central College, where he continues to make AVID vision of closing the achievement and opportunity gaps a reality for his students. John was a co-founding member of the AVID Site Team at Wyndham Central College, and he is privileged to lead AVID at the college as an AVID Coordinator, a role he has held for several years. Highlights of John's AVID journey include the opportunities to be a staff developer in mathematics and science, both here and in the United States, and his teaching of the AVID Elective, where he has facilitated and witnessed student success brought by the AVID rigour and supportive structure. Please welcome John to the stage.
Wow, I was starting to get a little bit emotional then just listening to Hassan. And when we talk about celebration of AVID, I think we talk about people like Hassan. When I first met Hassan, he came to our school about halfway through your regular secondary schooling as a refugee with no formal education at all. He grew from a very quiet young boy, but a thoughtful young boy, into the man that you see here that I now get to teach beside in my classrooms, which is kind of cool. And something which is really nice is Hassan is going to be married at the end of this year, which is wonderful. So, you know, with all that's going on in the media at the moment, with the state of the world coming out of the pandemic, with the shortage of teachers, there's so much in the media about that. But then I listen to someone like Dakota who comes up here and it's like, it's okay. The world's in good hands. We're fine. It's actually fine. And in the CSG group that I presented at with Betsy, my colleague from America, just then, the integrity of the staff in there, of how much they really wanted to get into that after a pretty long day, because we were just in the last session then, was absolutely amazing. So I know that we are in really, really good hands. So when they asked me to speak here, I was kind of a bit like, I don't think anyone actually would want to listen to me, but so you have to anyway, and I apologise. So I'd just like to tell a little bit of a story, and I'd like to get some feedback from everyone in here, and it's about pets and ownership of cats and dogs and so forth. So I'd like to just use a fist to 5. So it's a system that we use in the classroom where if you haven't had any pets, cats, dogs, birds, anything like that, you just give me a fist and it would be a 0. Now, we're going to max out at 5, so if you have had like 10 pets in your time, it can still just be a 5 and any number in between. So I'd just like to get a bit of an idea on the pet ownership and part pet ownership across this group. So I'll just ask you to do that now. After having done this for about 10 years, so that's the average of that is 4.73. Yeah. So that's a lot. So I think people here will relate to this next part of the story. During the last holidays, our dog became ill and we spent a fair bit of time at the vets. And when we were sitting at the vets with my wife, who's just here, a fellow staff developer, thank you, Dal, for the journey that we've been on. We were sitting at the vets with a dog that was quite ill, and the vet came out and grabbed us and we went inside, and she spent 10 minutes asking about Benny and what was wrong and what was happening and all of that. And I'm thinking, yep, great. Made a plan for how we were going to treat Benny and so forth. We were back the next day and the next day, and many thousands of dollars later as well, which anyone who's been to the vet will know. And whilst we were sitting there, I was equating that, and I'm thinking, gee, as a vet, you've got to know about the cats, the dogs, the birds, the penguins that were brought in while we were sitting there. And I thought, but as teachers, we really do some pretty great stuff as well. Imagine if that vet had 24 dogs brought in all at once, all into their room, and they didn't get that 10 minutes of time at the start to find out what the history of each one of those dogs was. They would never consider operating like that. Now, I have the greatest respect for vets, and our vet was wonderful and compassionate and fantastic. But I think as teachers, we sometimes underestimate what it is we're able to do. So when we talk about celebrating 10 years of AVID, we're celebrating the teachers of AVID. So congratulations to all of you. So a little bit about my journey of teaching. So I started teaching in 1990. I started teaching as a relief teacher so that I could windsurf on days when it was windy and be at school on days when it wasn't windy. It's actually true. And I thought I had become quite a reasonable teacher after 20 years of teaching. I had good feedback from the students. Things were going pretty well, but I think it was a stage of my life where I was getting a little bit stale. I was a volunteer for the State Emergency Service, and I was considering a change into working for the State Emergency Service as a road rescue trainer. And at about that stage, our school kind of literally fell apart. It literally fell down. We were on all of the news with the black mould, closed down by WorkSafe and everything. And we were assigned a new principal and some money to rebuild the school. And our new principal, Julie Myers, she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "John, I'd like you to check out this new teaching and learning initiative." I said, "Julie, I think you've probably got the wrong person. I'm potentially a little bit out the door." And then she said to me, "I've just spoken to your wife. I know you don't have a passport, but I need you to go and get one this afternoon. Here's the tickets to San Diego in California." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Where's the cameras? Like, is this like going to be on Australia's Funniest Home Videos or something?" But a week later, I was in San Diego, California at this AVID thing, this summer institute with 4,000 other teachers. 4,000. It was pretty crazy. I went through the math strand there with a presenter who has become a lifelong friend, David Hedges. I walked out of those 3 days completely rejuvenated in my teaching. I thought I was doing okay, but I actually really wasn't doing okay. And I had this toolbox that was overflowing. Came back to Australia and said, "Yeah, I think we can do this. I think this is going to really help our students at our school and many other schools in Australia." So I feel really privileged to be part of that on the ground floor. I've been back to the States multiple times to train as a staff developer, to work as a staff developer, even had a gig in Hawaii at one stage, which was pretty damn nice. I was in the airport with Claire Brown when it was announced that the partnership between Australia and AVID in America was okay, so we shared a bottle of champagne on that night. So I remember all of those things. So that's sort of a little bit of my journey, and for what it's done for me is absolutely amazing. Now, along the way in that journey, we now have 61 AVID schools in Australia. 2,600 teachers have been through AVID Summer Institutes. Yeah, 2,600. And the last 2 years have not been kind to us, but one of the people in my strand this afternoon actually came and thanked me for the online DXP maths discourse that I worked in last year. And I got some feedback at last from that, because it's so difficult when you're sitting behind a computer screen in a different town to really know what's going on. But that was effective. So thank you to AVID Australia for being brave and having a go at that, because clearly that was effective. When we think about the 2,600 teachers that we've trained, extrapolate that out by sort of 100 students per year over a teaching lifespan of 20, 30, 40 years, and we see that we do influence millions of students across Australia, and that's where the influence comes from. Now, certainly the last few years have been a challenge for not just educators, but for everyone. I know personally for myself, probably my toughest year of teaching. I thought the first year of remote teaching was my toughest, but no, this year that's just gone has been probably the toughest for myself. That everyone is here in this room today speaks volumes of your commitment as teachers to the young people in our society, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I just want to thank very quickly Claire Brown, who really kicked off AVID in Australia, and it's been a wonderful journey. Thank you very much. And I also really want to thank Wyndham Central College and my principal, Leanne Gagatsis, for allowing me to be on this journey. Without that permission to go here and do that and have a go at those other things, none of that would have happened. So thank you from my heart to you. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.